I'm Jordan Pascoe. I'm an associate professor of philosophy at Manhattan College, and I am the co-director of the LaSalle Women and Gender Resource Center. A lot of the tools being developed in feminist philosophy, I think, are the tools that the rest of the world needs, whether they know they need it or not. And that particularly questions about how power organizes knowledge, and the question of how our position in institutions of power will tend to organize our relationship to the power within those institutions are just absolutely essential for being able to understand the world in which we live. And I think feminist philosophy has developed those tools better than almost anybody else. There was an early conversation about a Women and Gender Center where we were told, absolutely we can have a Women and Gender Center. It can be a website. And we were like, no, that's not what we were talking about. You know, I think spaces honor and create and cultivate certain energies, right? They offer forms of protection. They offer forms of solidarity and intimacy and healing. And we wanted a space for that, a space where we could do this work, where our staff could be all in one place, where students could stop by and build community. And I think that having a space has been really transformative. I think this space draws people in. I mean, I spent office hours here every week, and in those times I've witnessed different students come in and we start talking to one another, and ideas and community and new forms of advocacy emerge out of students talking to each other in a space. Within college campuses, women's voices have been historically marginalized. Women find themselves living in conditions in which they are overwhelmingly vulnerable, obviously, to not just attack, but undermining in various ways. And I also do think that universities are often crucibles in which we test out future options for the world at large, and that feminist energy on campuses has almost always then reverberated out into the world in a larger sense. I would really love to see an ongoing engagement, especially for first-year students, but for students across the board, around not just consent, but healthy relationships. So that we were engaging with students, not just about what the minimum requirements are of them in order to not assault one another, but also how to build healthy relationships, you know, in the context of rape culture and hookup culture, right, which is where we live. I would love to see us more formally engaging men. You know, my greatest hope for the Women and Gender Center is that someday it would just be the Gender Center, because everybody would be doing the work of gender, not just women and LGBTQ students. I would love to figure out how we, as a college with a clear sense of our own mission, meet students where they are and really engage the way in which social groups and social pressures create the sexual culture in which we find ourselves, as well as other cultures of exclusion. So often the kinds of hate crimes and assaults that take place on campus are because of the way that students are peer pressuring one another to engage in those behaviors. And I think this is a question for us as educators, as well as for the institution as a total institution and a place where students live and work. One of the reasons why I love what I do, and why I hope I never have to do anything else, is that the college years are often just absolutely formative years for students. And so I think the gift of getting to work with people as they are becoming who they will be, while they are still open enough to be asking big and radical questions about who they will be, but also capable enough to be kind of putting themselves in the world and reading the world and responding to the world, is such a gift. And it's such a critical moment to offer some feminist interventions, feminist support, to maybe ask a few critical questions here and there about what assumptions students came into this space with, what they will take with them. I've seen students go into careers informed by feminism, sometimes going into graduate school, sometimes going into advocacy. You know, I've had students decide that what they wanted to do was study sexual assault law. And I've also just had students who just found themselves in the world and just really got a good grounded sense of who they were and felt creative and excited and capable of fully showing up in their relationships and their lives and their bodies, and that's an incredible thing to get to support.